When Wilfredo De Jesus was picked to become the senior pastor of New Life Covenant, the small church in the heart of Chicago had just 68 members. Well, since then, the church has expanded its base and its reach. And according to Pastor De Jesus, all it took was a little amazing faith.
Pastor Wilfredo De Jesus, better known as Pastor Choco, is one of Time Magazine's 100 most influential people of 2013. He's been the senior pastor of New Life Covenant Church for over a decade with 14,000 members. It's the largest Assemblies of God church in the U.S. and has 135 worldwide ministries. Pastor Choco grew up in a rough Chicago neighborhood, and his future didn't look good. Then at 14, his life turned around and he found his destiny. His book, Amazing Faith, shares life stories that show no one is too lost or too hopeless for God's love and how to find your purpose.
And we want to welcome you to the show, Pastor Choco.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here. Thank you so much.
Well, of course, your real name is Pastor De Jesus, but first we got to find out, how did you get the nickname Pastor Choco? That's how everybody calls you.
Yeah, Pastor Choco comes from a term of endearment in the Puerto Rican community. Since I was small, 7, 8 years old, I had that name, Chocolate. Chocolate was my nickname. And then when I got saved in 77.
Because you like chocolate.
I love chocolate and the color of my skin as well, but more because of the chocolate. And then in 77, they took out the latte and left it as Choco.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, we mentioned earlier, your church has exploded. You say it's because your church stood up like Stephen. What do you mean by that?
Well, I think every season God calls, the Bible teaches us that the eyes of God is looking to see whose heart is fully committed to him.
Right.
And there's just so many hurting people during our time here in our nation that New Life Covenant decided to stand in the midst of all the turmoil, all the pain and suffering, and become that true beacon of light, the gospel, the transforming life. And when Stephen stood up for what his faith was, Jesus stood up in the heavens. And so I think we all have that time and season in our life that we would have to be challenged to be standing up.
Yeah, Stephen's a great person to study in the Bible.
Amen.
For sure.
Amen.
Well, you're not only the senior pastor at New Life Covenant, you are also the vice president for social justice at the nation's largest Hispanic evangelical group. What are some of the biggest issues that face the Latino community?
Well, one of the things that right now we're pressing, I'll be talking in Washington next month, is the issue of immigration. That's one thing. The issue of education, that our people are suffering from poverty. We've got over 46% of high school Latinos that are dropping out of high school. And so this is something that has to be reckoned with. It's not only the pulpit that we preach on, but we speak into these issues that are facing our people.
Why is the church so important to social justice issues?
Yeah, I think the church is the largest institution, and let me just say the greatest institution on the planet Earth. The Bible teaches us that we're the head and not the tail.
Yeah.
And although we've been acting like the tail for so many years, this is the season for the church to be the head. And so we're leading the way.
You must be doing something right. I mean, you went from 48 to 14,000.
Yeah. I mean, well, it's reaching people, reaching hurting people, all those that no one wants, prostitutes, drug addicts. If you go to our church, it'll be easy for you to sit next to someone who just came out of prostitution or drug addiction or gangs.
Your church has made it a mission to reach out to the most destitute. And really, your upbringing, your family life was not far from that. You're one of 6 children raised by a single mom.
Yeah.
How did you turn your life around?
Well, did not know Jesus, first of all. I think your audience needs to know that. Here I was in the city of Chicago, one of the worst parks in the nation in the 1970s. Surrounded by gangs and drugs, and every other building was probably abandoned or filled with drugs. And there I was living, and yet God in his mercy and his grace put his hand upon me. And in 77, I came to know the Lord.
Pastor Choco, how did you survive the gang culture? I was reading your book last night, and you talked about how you were a young guy, like 14, 15. You knew the Lord. You would walk up in all these gang members would be there, and they would say, what would they say to you?
Well, they would always say, in the city of Chicago, is when you walk, is what do you be about?
What do you be about?
What do you represent?
Right.
You know, what gang do you ride with? And at that point, I accepted Jesus, and that was my gang. And so they would say their gang name, and I would say, I represent Jesus Christ, and shake their hand. So they were shocked.
They would shake your hand.
They would shake my hand because I represented my conviction, the Stephen, going back to Stephen, standing up for what you believe.
So as long as you were part of something, they could respect that.
They could respect that. And okay, he's part of the church.
Did you ever get beat up?
Never, never. Nor did we run. We always stood up for our faith.
Now, your book right here is called Amazing Faith.
Yeah.
What are some of the characteristics of amazing faith?
Well, Wendy, only 2 times in the Bible is Jesus amazed by individuals, and they're both pagan people. I mean, for the most part, the centurion soldier, Jesus was amazed by his faith. He came to Jesus, his servant was dying, and Jesus said, in the entire country, I've not met a man with this faith. The widow that goes to church, he's in church, and he's amazed by her faith, that she gives everything she has. And so the book is challenging people to walk towards their fear, and it activates their faith. You see, fear is the absence of faith. And so I've been traveling the last 10, 11 months with the book about challenging our churches and pastors and leaders and believers to activate their faith. This is a season to rise up and walk towards the river and watch it open.
You know, as Christians, we talk so much about faith, but it's something that we continually need to be encouraged to step out and to walk on the water. And you have done that. I mean, Time Magazine says you're one of the most influential people in the world, you know?
Yeah, that was just a great honor. And I tell folks in other outlets, I tell them that I've got the greatest PR person in the world, which is God. This is only God, Wendy, that Time Magazine would recognize. And I'm humbled and honored to represent the Christian community on Time Magazine.
Going, from the streets of Chicago to Time Magazine to one of the biggest churches in the country. Pastor Wilfredo De Jesus.
Yes.
It's so great to have you on the program.
I'm honored.
All right.